Go ahead and turn off your camera and your microphone so that you will not be seen or heard. If you do not wish to be seen or heard, you can still participate as a audio hearer. If you don't wish to be recorded at all, you are free to leave the recording session.
Okay, my mic is turned on now.
Nice.
No.
All right. I'm also going to go through and mute everyone.
Nope, only through the phone.
Okay, so go ahead and start prayers, and we'll have some more announcements. Oh, crap. Hang on 1 second.
I can't see the prayers. Do we have a prayer book here? Do we have a prayer book? I can't see the prayers.
Yeah, it's because you just pinned me.
Oh. They're pretty blurry on this computer. Okay.
Are you still presenting, James?
Okay.
Sorry, but whatever James is presenting is so small that I cannot read it.
There we go.
That's better, thank you.
Yeah. Is this what we're reading? This is what we're reading? Okay.
Can we start with the opening prayers?
Yeah. Refuge.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with that. Oh. Yeah.
Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, knower of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, supreme one, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, knower of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, supreme one, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. Teacher, foe destroyer, thus gone, fully and perfectly awakened Buddha, endowed with knowledge and good conduct, gone to bliss, knower of the world, helmsman of ordinary beings to be tamed, supreme one, teacher of all gods and men, Buddha, foe destroyer, glorious victorious one, Shakyamuni. To you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. When you chief of humans were born, you took 7 steps on this great earth, and you said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise at that time, I prostrate. Completely pure body, supremely fine form, ocean of wisdom like a golden mountain, vein that blazes in the 3 worlds. Supreme protector, to you I prostrate. Endowed with the supreme marks, a face like the stainless moon, a color like gold. To you I pay homage. The 3 worlds are not like you, who is free from dust. Matchless one, endowed with knowledge. To you I prostrate. Protector, endowed with great compassion. Omniscient teacher, field of ocean-like merits and good qualities, to the thus gone I prostrate. Through purity, free from attachment. Through virtue, releases from the evil gone realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate meaning. To the Dharma that brings peace, I prostrate. From freedom, teaching the path, while abiding in the pure trainings. Holy field, endowed with good qualities. To the Sangha also, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha. Homage to the Dharma refuge. Homage to the great Sangha. To all 3, ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action. Accumulate virtue and goodness. Subdue your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Like a star, a mirage, a lamp, illusions, drops of dew, bubbles, dreams, lightning, and clouds. Look at all conditioned phenomena as such. Due to this merit, having attained the state of the all-seeing, and thereby subduing the enemy of faults, may I liberate migrators from the ocean of existence, stirred by waves of aging, sickness, and death. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by listening to the Dharma, may I create Buddhahood. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the joyful happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from holding some close and others distant. Respectfully, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtuous actions of all ordinary noble beings. Please, Buddha, remain as our guide and turn the wheel of Dharma until samsara ends. Through the merit created by myself and others, may the 2 bodhicittas ripen, and may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. This offering I make of a precious jewel mandala, together with other pure offerings and wealth and the virtues we have collected throughout the 3 times, with our body, speech, and mind. Oh, my masters, my yidams, and the 3 precious jewels, I offer all to you with unwavering faith. Accepting these out of your boundless compassion, please send forth waves of your blessings. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatyami. Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time, the Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Ultra Mountain on Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Arya, Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on, and up to, and including, no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, and up to, and including, no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom and no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in the reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as a truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Tayata gate gate paragate. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Oh, like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arjia Rinpoche, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arjia Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Oh,
Thanks. All right. Thank you very much, Michelle. Just to reiterate, for those of you who came in a little bit late, this meeting is being recorded. So if you do not wish to be recorded, you're welcome to turn off your video and your audio, and you can still participate in that way. Today is also sort of a special day. We have a special speaker, Arjia Rinpoche, who's coming on at about noon. And until then, we have a great speaker, Dirk Johnson, who's going to talk to us for a while. We will have a lot of people coming in and out, so if you happen to get booted for some reason, please come back, and hopefully the in and outs will not be terribly distracting. I'm going to turn it over to Dirk, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Dirk. It's all yours.
Thank you, Connor and Michelle and James. I'm going to start with a lineage prayer that one of my teachers always had me do. So this is just a portion of it. May I hereby become completely free from all grasping to a self and from all desire and attachment for the things of this world. May the Bodhisattva's attitude arise in my heart, and may I thereby become a mighty protector of each and every living being. May I come to realize all forms and appearances I encounter in the world to be nothing but the play of deity, mantra, and primordial wisdom. And may I in this very life attain and manifest the perfect state of Samantabhadra. So that was from Khenpo Gyurme Trinley, a translation of Nyala lineage prayer. And start also just by thanking Lama Jinpa for having enough trust in me to let me talk about this important subject. And to express my gratitude for the tradition, which I'll get into here in a moment, I'm going to present my screen because I'm going to show you my notes, because I'm going to be talking about the 5 skandhas, and there's a lot of, I'm going to be using a lot of words that I thought it would be easier if you could actually see them than just hearing me talk about it. So what the topic is the 5 skandhas, which you don't see on the sheet, but what are the 5 skandhas come from a portion of the teachings of Buddhism called the Abhidharma. And historically, the Abhidharma is part of what's known as the Tripitaka, or sometimes you'll hear it said Tripitaka, or even Tripitaka. But I think Tripitaka is, despite what Oxford says, I think that's correct because of the way accentuation works in Indo-European words. But so the Tripitaka, or the Tripitaka, is Sutra, Vinaya, and Abhidharma. And as you probably already know, Sutra is the word of the Buddha. Vinaya is the code of conduct or ethics of the monastic branch of the Sangha. And Abhidharma could be translated as mind science, or they call it the higher science. So it's an analysis of experience, essentially. And there is a long textual history of development, and that goes back to the time of Shakyamuni Buddha in the 4th to the 5th century BC. A lot of texts slowly developed over a long period of time. If you just look it up, if you look up Abhidharma on the web, you're probably going to get mostly, the most entries you'll see are from the Theravada school, which used to be the Stavira Mati. I probably got mangled that, but the elders. And the Abhidharma that the Tibetans study comes from a different branch, the Svatantrikas. And then it's modified by a text that was written in the 4th or 5th century of the Common Era, by Vasubandhu, which is a poem in about 600 verses called the Abhidharma Kosha Karika. The Abhidharma Kosha Karika, and then his auto commentary on that text, which is the Abhidharma Kosha Bhasyan. And don't worry, I'm hoping not to be this dry all the way through, but I think a little context can help a little bit here about what we're talking about. The Abhidharma Kosha Karika is memorized by, many of the geshes and monks and practitioners of the Tibetan tradition. It's the primary. Did I skip something? No, I didn't skip it. It's the primary text that the Tibetans study, but there is another one, and that was written by Asanga's older brother, the Abhidharma Samuccaya by Asanga, and you may know Asanga for the 5 treasuries of Asanga. Those in the Buddha Dharma study program know what I'm talking about, but Asanga and Nagarjuna are 2 of the main philosophical streams of Mahayana Buddhism. So, but generally speaking, in Tibet, it's the Abhidharma Kosha that's studied. Although the Abhidharma Samachaya is also very widely read, but it's generally considered to be a text of the Yogacara school, and it does tend to be studied a little more by the Nyingma and the Kagyu as opposed to the Glugpa and the Sakya. Now, that out of the way, there's a source book. There's a long history of commentary and whatnot in India on the Abhidharma Kosha in Sanskrit. In Tibet, there was the beginning of a commentarial tradition, and it was mostly in the Sakya lineage of Buddhism, and it came through the Kadampa masters, who the Glugpa sect considers itself pretty much to be the inheritors of the Kadam lineage, but all of the schools, of course, are affected and ascribed to a lot of the teachings of the Kadam lineage. In this case, the source book that's widely used is Ornament of Abhidharma. In Tibetan, they call it the Chizmu, or the Great Chizmu. It's a commentary by Chim Jampal Yang, written in the Jampal Yang. Chim Jampal Yang lived from about, let me see, I'm going from memory here, 1345 to 1245 to 1325, something like that. So this was composed somewhere during his lifetime, so in the 13th or 14th century. And we now have an English translation of that text, which includes a translation of the root verses by Vasubandhu. And that's by Ian James Coughlin, whose monastic name is Jampa Ingyen. He trained at Sarah J, as did Lama Jinpa. And that's published by Wisdom Publications, Library of Tibetan Classics, book 23. And I would show you a cover of it, but right now I only have the Kindle version, so I can't show it to you. So why did I go through all of that is because the skandhas are the first topic in Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha Bhāsya. It is, by the way, possible to get a translation of Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Kosha Bhāsyam, which is includes both the root verses and the commentary, but it's very expensive. And there are PDFs, though, that you can find online of it. It's an English translation of a French translation. But I think that that this book, sorry, I want to go back up I'm going down when I thought I was going up. I want to go back to this because this Library of Tibetan Classics, book 23, the Ornament of Abhidharma is available, and it has all of the verses of Vasubandhu, and it's a translation that takes into account the entire tradition of Abhidharma, and it also takes into account the Abhidharma Samuchaya by his brother Asanga. So it really is a compendium of the study of Abhidharma. But the first subject of the Abhidharma Samuchaya, of the Abhidharma Kosha, the compendium of higher teachings, is the skandhas. And so, before I actually get into the details of the skandhas, although we did just recite them with the Heart Sutra, when Shariputra saw that these 5 aggregates, that's the 5 skandhas, these 5 aggregates also are empty of inherent existence. That's the 5 skandhas. And so why would we study the skandhas? I mean, as a basic way, you can study them just to increase your knowledge of Buddha Dharma in general. But you can also study them because it'll give you the vocabulary to understand many of the other texts that you'll encounter in Buddhism. So those are two pretty good reasons to study it, but I think there's actually a better reason. And that better reason is that it's a description of experience. And so the skandhas themselves can function as objects of meditation, and they provide direct knowledge when they're meditated with in that way to the nature of reality itself and the nature of experience itself. And an example of that formal way of meditating on the skandhas is Mipam Rinpoche's The Wheel of Analytical Meditation that thoroughly purifies mental activity. And that's available for free online at Lotsawa House. I'm going to actually, I meant to do this before. Well, I can't do it while I'm talking, so I'll try to put a link in the chat at some point. Now, finally, what are the 5 aggregates? Aggregates is just one of the translations of the 5 skandhas, also called heaps, collections. In the translation of the sutra we just read, it's called the 5 aggregates. But in the translation of a book of Vasubandhu's called The Inner Science of Buddhist Practice, which is Vasubandhu's summary of the 5 heaps, which is the 5 skandhas also, see? So that was translated as heaps. And other places, sometimes you'll hear it say this, based upon this collection, based upon the transitory collection, they're referring to the skandhas. And the skandhas are a part of, what Vasubandhu did was he laid out all of the possible objects of that you can encounter in a way. And so these are the psychophysical constituents, and they're also known as nama rupa, or name and form. And so they're all knowable conditioned things in the phenomenal world. And now we'll get into the skandhas themselves. The really fun stuff that I could have just done right from the start. And rupa, form, you've heard form a lot. Form, materiality, those are the things that the senses encounter, but it's not the only thing that form is from the point of view of Buddhism. So you got what's seen, what's heard, what's smelled, what's tasted, what's felt physically, through the tactile sense, through the body sense. But they also talk about the non-informative objects of form. And in Vasubandhu's presentation of the non-informative forms, it's things derived from forms, from material forms, or things that are the object of concentration. So that would be, things derived from material form would be like a memory of something. Let's say, or an image in your mind of a table, say, or anything that comes to mind. So of course the Abhidharma Samuccaya takes it just one step further, and in the according to a Sangha, the object of what form is anything that's experienced by mind becomes form in that sense. In the Theravada, it tends to be more just simply the senses, but we don't see it that way so much in the Mahayana. Form is anything that you can experience directly, whether with the mental sense or with the physical sense. So then the next one is Vedana, which is feeling, and feeling, tone, and sensation, and all of those can be confusing translations if you don't have a gloss, because when we talk about feelings, we're usually talking about, I feel hurt, I feel happy, I feel things like that. Emotions are what we talk about when we talk about feelings, but that's not what's meant here. What's meant here is pleasant, basically pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So what this is about really is, now we've got this experience, this form, something that comes into our realm of experience. And before we are even conscious, before we even start to interact with it consciously, we're already categorizing it as pleasant or unpleasant, or something that we just don't really care about one way or the other. We're already seeing how it interacts with me, right? We're already creating this sense of a self here. So I'm going to pause here because I've gone on for a long time, and I apologize. I feel a little bit rushed today. So, and see if there's any comments or, suggestions or complaints or anything that you would like to put forth.
Dirk, this is Susan. I'm, as you were talking about form, and I'm jumping ahead, so you don't need to respond to this until you get there. But when you get to mental formations, I think it's, and consciousness, I'm seeing some confusion in my mind as to some of the descriptions that you gave for form and how they might overlap with mental formations and with consciousness. So I'm just anticipating the question, if you will.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't think they're, it's not categories. They're categories imposed, right? They're not things that are found. So they all of them are characterizing the same things in some way, I think. Of course, I could be wrong. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question about that. Looking at feeling tone, where is feeling tone? Is there a part of the body that we can recognize as where feeling tone comes through?
No, feeling tone is simply that positive, negative, neutral response which comes prior to consciousness.
Prior to consciousness. So a feeling tone cannot be adjusted through any conscious experience then?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Okay.
But it's something that's it's immediate. It's right away. It happens right away upon the presentation of the object. And it can. I'm not saying it can. I don't know if it can be changed. I presume it could. I think that's a good question for discussion. But I'm not an expert on that.
Well, that actually answers the question. So it's the immediate visceral experience of it prior to other things happening. Okay. And therefore
they talk about it as, as being so instantaneous that awareness doesn't even register it yet.
So it's something that's super subtle, right?
I don't know how subtle. Yes, I guess subtle could be correct, but it's just that it's immediate. It's just unmediated. It's just almost instantaneous upon the connection.
Isn't it the second thing in the wheel of dependent origination? Right, the person with the arrow in the eye.
Right. Yeah.
Well, is the meat palm meditation to help us bring this forward?
I'm sorry?
Is the meat palm meditation to help us bring forward these concepts so we can be conscious of them?
The MIPAM practice that I indicated?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I think it does. It does take them and work with them. Yeah.
Have you used the Nippon meditation?
I haven't. I've read it, and that's all I've really done, because I was working under time pressure.
But
But I did find it, and I said, well, this is illuminating even just to read through it once.
okay. Can I ask how much the Kindle? I looked at Libris for used books. This text is a couple $100. So is the Kindle cheaper?
The Abhidharma Kosha you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I don't have that. That's not on Kindle. I'm talking about the commentary by Chim John Paul Yang.
Okay.
That's like $55,
Okay. All right.
whether Kindle or not. I actually bought them both, but I don't have the hardcover yet.
So the Nippon meditation is free on Sawa House. Then.
That's right.
Okay.
It's called the Wheel of Analytical Meditation.
Can you post your presentation on the calendar so that we can download it?
I can email it to you.
Okay. Can you give examples?
Examples
Yeah, examples for
of feeling?
Yeah, because these words here mean nothing to me.
Yeah, feeling, tone, tone, and cessation. Well, it's pleasant, unpleasant, and actually, there's a passage in Trungpa Rinpoche does a really nice job of talking about feeling tone. It is said that feeling tone permeates all of our sensory perceptions, not just our ordinary mental processes. As soon as we perceive something through any of the sensory mediums, there is already a feeling tone involved. No sensory perception is free from the overtones of feeling. It is quite usual to regard sensory perceptions as something passive and mental processes as something active. They say that certain objects stimulate your sense organs, and then your mind responds to that in an active way. The object operates on you by stimulating your senses. Feeling tone, therefore, acts as the necessary condition for our indulgence in sensuality. So I think feeling tone is very much like it's the quality of the perception in a way. The attracted toward, not wanting to go toward, like that. Does that make any more sense?
Yes, it does. Is this feeling tone type thing, does it come through previous lifetimes, or is it learned?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. See, this is a very deep study. All I'm doing is just scratching every one of these has a couple of thousand years of study behind it. So, each one of these, I'm only trying to give you just the barest introduction here. I won't be able, we could spend the entire time on sight. So I actually think I have to move on, or we're not going to get to the others. Is that okay? Elizabeth,
Yeah,
you've
should, because
frozen.
it's like quarter till already.
Yeah. So the third skanda is samjna, discernment, perception, discrimination, and that's another one who's when you get into the vocabulary of it's difficult. Rinpoche is here, so maybe I should stop here. So we'll have to continue this some other time, I think.
Well, I don't know. Let's ask. Rinpoche, we see
Hello.
that you've signed on. Would you like some time to wait for other people to join us?
Connor, I think we should honor the fact that he's here. And as other people come in, they can just come in.
Yeah.
So I will continue this talk at some other time and dispense with the historical background next time.
Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Dirk.
Okay, so actually it's Chumpe. Chumpe, do you want us to continue actually? And wait? You're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm just testing. So
Okay.
we still have 15 more minutes, right?
Yes.
So I'll call you after 15 minutes, 3
Okay.
o'clock. Okay?
Okay, great.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
No, that's okay. So Dirk, do you want to continue?
Oh, okay, so I'll continue.
That's sort of what I thought, but I think that's going to happen with a couple people coming in and out for a little bit in the next couple minutes.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. Considering the first time I talked, I had to do everything. So, so when we get to the next skanda, sanya, discernment, perception, discrimination, it's like, you know, the next kind of the next step into starting. Now we're starting to make an assessment about it. We're actually already beginning to conceptualize about it. And let me see here. I hadn't actually prepared to do this, but my mind isn't as lithe as I had hoped it would be. So let's see what Trangu Rinpoche says about about perception here. He calls it that particular mental process where the conscious operation begins to become selective. So certain things are taken in while other things are left out. Some kind of editing process is taking place. If we direct our attention to a particular object, we don't mistake that object for something else. There is clearly defined perception taking place. He likes the term, he likes the translation perception for this one. But you'll see this translated as discernment, perception, discrimination, and probably some other things that I haven't thought of in time for this talk. So is there any comment or anything about discernment, perception, discrimination? Really, all I'm trying to do is give you enough tools that when you're reading and you run into one of these, you know what they're talking, you have an idea about what they're talking about. It's something that requires additional study, but it's good to just kind of have this, like, at least a thumbnail idea of what they're talking about. Now, of course, this one, the next one is really a big one. It's the samskara, mental formations, conceptions, dispositions, karmic formations, conditioning factors, predispositions. I've even seen it translated as habitual tendencies. So it's that is the level, definitely what Karen asked about whether the feeling, I think Karen asked, whether feeling was from karmic because of karma. But this definitely is. And when we get into, I'm going to give you again Trangu Rinpoche. The fourth skanda known as samskara or dubya, which is conception. He likes the word conception for this one, which on reflection may not be a good translation. Conception. Conception has the function of directing our mind to a particular object and taking interest in the object, which is what we were talking about before in the third skanda. So the explanation for this skanda is that its function is to direct our mind to a particular object. Right, that's right. His explanation isn't very straightforward. So conception is not a habitual. He says it's not a habitual process. That its function is to direct our attention to a particular object. So if we have a thought, that thought is about something. If we, quote, will something, there's something that is willed. And so all of these processes have some kind of direction out. It's a directionality. First you got that conception, and then you start going toward it in a certain way with certain dispositions toward it. There's a very fine analysis of a moment of experience in a way. And I'm not giving a very good coverage of it, but the other aspect is that it doesn't just direct your mind to a particular object, it prepares you to act on situations. So, you're starting now, you're starting to respond or react to what it is that you're encountering. You've had this, you've encountered something that you touch it and it's hot, and you realize it's very hot, so it's very unpleasant. You go, oh, you've got this. There's this transition into hot, and it becomes conscious as you direct your attention more into it, and then you have this reaction to start to pull away from it, which is that fourth skanda. And now that can also happen that somebody does something that reminds you of something that happened to you when you were a little kid and you freak out, even though it's not really dangerous. So, that's operative on many levels that we don't have time to get into. So are there any comments about or questions about that one as far as we can get into on our allotted time? I saw that, Morris asked a question in text about heaps. He asked about heaps. Aggregate heap, it's collection. It's because it's not a singular thing. It's not singular. So it's something that's made up of other things. It's a heap. Were you going to say something, Martha? You're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Dirk. I'm really struggling to understand the difference between the third and the fourth skandhas, and I was just wondering if there's anything else that might help me understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, let me see. Let's see what Vasubandhu's summary of the 5 heaps, whether or not that can give us anything here. Sorry, I have it marked on my. You know what? I'm going to look where I've got it. Well, my main purpose here is to whet your curiosity and to inspire you to investigate this a little. So maybe that's working, huh? So according to Vasubandhu's, according to this translation, the third one is the conception heap. And he says, what is conception? This is very straightforward. The grasping of an object sign, which is of 3 types. Limited, great, and immeasurable. I'm sure that really just clarified everything for you. But it might help to show the distinction with the next one, even though that needs explanation all by itself. The next one is the formations heap. What are the formations? They're the mental factors other than feeling and conception and the entities that do not accompany and that's okay. And that's where I just fell flat on my face in this talk, because I know that to be true. All three of these skandhas, samjna, samskara, and vijnana, are consciousness, essentially. They're elements of consciousness. And the third and the fourth are separated out by themselves for additional study. So it's easy to confuse them. And as it said there, the formations are the mental factors other than feeling and conception. You see, those are actually mental factors themselves, but the other mental factors are things like contact, attention, conception. Well, see that because of translations make this really hard, because you'll see the same word used in both of them, which makes it confusing. It's a translation that's making it confusing, really, because we don't have a consistent vocabulary. So I'm going to try to skip some of the ones that'll make it more more confusing. Faith, recollection, concentration, wisdom, shame, abashment, the root virtue that's avoidance of attachment, the root virtue that is avoidance of hatred, the virtue that's avoidance of ignorance, pride, resentment, hatred, desire, doubt, anger, stinginess, envy, spite, dissembling. These are all samskara. And there are 51 of them. Those are all the aggregate of samskara. So the other aggregates individually have so much that they were separated out for separate study as aggregates.
Dirk, could you say that Vedana is actually encountering something, samyana is noticing it, and samskara is reacting to it?
I think you could use that as a basis for investigating further, yeah. I wouldn't want to summarize it like that, but I think you could start with that and investigate it further and refine those ideas, or contradict them in your investigation. But I think that's not a bad place to start. And then the fifth one, because we are almost out, is consciousness, or vijnana. And I liked Trungpa's Rinpoche's, he calls it empirical consciousness, which I thought was good. And he says, oh yeah, because he talked about it earlier, but to understand empirical consciousness, we need to discuss the way the sensory perceptions relate to mind and mental events, and to explore how mind and mental events relate to each other. And so, of course, consciousness is, in our tradition, when we talk about consciousness, there's no consciousness without consciousness of something. So that's different from the way we usually talk about it in the West. In the West, we talk about we talk about perceptions. I perceive I see something. I have the perception of sight. So I see a shape. We don't really analyze that very much. But in this tradition, we've got the organ of the eye, which transmits, which receives the light from an object. So you've already got two things there. You've got the basis of the perception, which is the object that's seen. You've got the eye, which is the organ of sight that picks up the light from that object. And then you've got the consciousness, which becomes aware of that, which is what actually is seeing it. The eye is not actually seeing it. All the eye is doing is transmitting the information to the consciousness. So the consciousness, it's the consciousness of something. You're conscious of the sight. You're conscious of the smell. You're conscious of the mental event. You're conscious of the physical contact, the body event, the sound event. You're conscious of what I'm saying, but you're also, when I'm saying it, you're also conscious of the words that you have in your mind. It's like the sound, you don't just hear a sound. Now you've already interpreted that sound into something else. So the consciousness is, of course, the one where it gets really complicated. It's almost like an inverted pyramid. You start with form, which is relatively straightforward, and you just keep getting more and more complex. And I'm going to sign off here and turn this over to Rinpoche. Thank you for your indulgence.
Rinpoche is not quite on yet. I see Lamala's back on with us.
Maybe I figured it out.
Brad, could you please stop presenting? Just click the button that says stop presenting.
I don't need to be on it.
No, I got that. I'm just so you can see it.
Oh. Rinpoche is on with us.
Hi. Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Hello.
Hello.
Delay.
That's delay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. How are you, Lama Jimba?
I'm very well.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
enjoying American Father's Day also.
Great. I have a question for your technician.
Okay.
This one, when we see each other, the picture is in a in a different version, right? So can we turn around this one?
You mean like left and right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh, no. Okay, never mind. I'm just wondering. Yeah, some of them they can do.
Oh, okay.
Right, like if you do a FaceTime, they can change it. Anyway, okay.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we start now or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Go
Okay.
as long as you like.
Okay. So maybe around 1 hour.
Perfect.
Oh, is this okay?
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, do you send the Heart Sutra to everyone?
Everyone should have already
have one, right?
Yeah, already chanted Heart Sutra, yes.
Okay, great. Shall we start now?
Please.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lama Jimba. You gave me that wonderful opportunity to meet everybody here. And also, hello to everyone. So you're everyone mostly in California or where?
I'd say mostly California, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe New Mexico also. You'd have to ask Connor.
Okay.
My moderator.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Lama Jimba asked me to talk about that Heart Sutra. So today, in Tibetan calendar, the last day of Sagardawa, which is we consider it very auspicious. And also we have chance to discuss the Heart Sutra. So the Heart Sutra is very important, one of the teaching in Buddhism. First of all, why they call Heart Sutra. So in English, they made that shorter. In Tibetan, they call Shirap Nyingbu, the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. So they, in English, just say Heart Sutra. So wisdom, talking about the wisdom. Wisdom is the one of the key words for the Buddhism. Buddhism always emphasizes compassion and wisdom. So the wisdom is the most important one. If you don't have wisdom, you don't have wisdom of emptiness, then you are not enlightened yet. So that's in Buddhist text. I'm actually now reading that's reciting Buddhist text. Now is the paramita part. Paramita has wisdom, which is paramita. Then has 12 volumes. I was reading in number 10 now. I didn't see the Heart Sutra yet. I'm really looking forward to see the Heart Sutra in the Ganjur, because sometimes in the Ganjur, when you see the prayers, they always changed a little bit. The original one is a little bit different. So anyway, so that's why I'm looking for that one, but I couldn't, I didn't reach there yet. So anyway, the 12 volumes, they're talking about all the wisdom. The Heart Sutra, just several pages. They also talking about the wisdom. So that's why that's very like concisely giving teaching there. So that's why very important. Now, I hope everyone have that's Heart Sutra. I will read that one. Maybe our, because the translation, so that's why maybe the translation is a little bit different maybe. So we'll, I will, you know, paragraph by paragraph to try to explain it. So the beginning. Thus have I once heard, the Blessed One was sitting in Rajagir on mat of Vulture's Peak, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. So that's just one paragraph. In this paragraph, I think we should learn something that's very beginning. I once heard, so that means like somebody hear those teachings. So that means definitely that's not composed, not written by Buddha. Buddha never write the books and everything, you know, he might wrote, but you know, the teachings, that's all after Buddha passed away. All disciples together organized his teaching. Then Heart Sutra is the one of them. Then he gave teaching in the Vulture's Peak in India. So in this part also, in Tibetan tradition, we say 5 very important points we have. The first one is the location where Vulture's Peak in India. The secondly, who is the person giving teaching? So Blessed One, Buddha. Then who are the audience or congregation. So that's the monks, community of monks, and the community of bodhisattvas. By the way, the bodhisattva also is the lay disciples or students. So that's two groups. Then those audience, important. Then the topic is the Heart Sutra. So those are 5 things, right? So the Heart Sutra is the topic, the teacher is Buddha, and the place is Vulture's Peak, and the time. So the time is very important today. That's a very auspicious day. Then the topic is Heart Sutra. So in the first paragraph, we should know those 5 things. And the next paragraph. At that time, the Blessed One fully entered meditative concentration on the categories of the phenomena called perception of profound. So let's give a little bit of background for us. Actually, we say Buddha's teaching, but some of the teachings are, when you read that's Buddha's text, you always realize those things. Some of them as a conversation, not really a teaching directly from Buddha. So that's Heart Sutra as well. So that's actually Buddha was meditating. When Buddha started to meditate, then Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra having a conversation. Then finally, they're proved by Buddha. The Buddha doing meditation now, that's meditation has lots of categories. So one point, maybe 2 months ago or something, when I read that sutra, they mentioned that's all meditation, different meditations. So I always try to remember some of them, then no way, like pages and pages and pages, maybe I don't know, maybe several hundred. So that's one is particular called perception of profound. So that's meditation actually belongs to that's wisdom. That see through the every phenomena and everything. So see the truth, which is the emptiness. So Buddha was doing meditation. Then the things fine. I'm asking, so it's okay, right? The sound. Okay. Now, next one. At that time as well, Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, the great being, behold the practice itself of the profound perfection of wisdom, and he even saw the 5 aggregates as empty of inherent nature. This paragraph, very important. At that time, the Avalokiteshvara, he's one of the Buddha's disciple. We always say 8 disciples, important disciples. So Avalokiteshvara in Tibetan called Genje Sik. So who doing that meditation as well. Then when he said meditation, then he saw that 5 aggregates as empty of inherent nature. So that's one, empty of inherent nature is very, very important. That's one we should remember all the time for the Heart Sutra teaching. So inherent nature, that's true nature, everything is empty. Everything is emptiness. So we'll discuss this emptiness later. Here, Avalokiteshvara, his title, they mentioned two, they emphasize two things, the Bodhisattva and the great being. Because the translated the English, that's very beautiful. So you can't, you just read, then that's wonderful, that's emphasized. But when you read the Tibetan one, almost like kind of they doubled, they call it Chanchup Semba Chimbu, like Bodhisattva, like two times. So here, the translation, they don't want to do that. So that's why they said the Bodhisattva and the great being. So in the Tibetan, almost like the Bodhisattva, the great Bodhisattva, like something like that. So why they repeat two times, that's also very important, we should know. When you get to which level called Bodhisattva, then Bodhisattva was compassion. So the first of all, we have to generate the compassion. We have love, we have loving kindness. If somebody having trouble or whatever, something, then we want to like to go there and help and do something. That's all based on the compassion. But that's a compassion is not really a compassion in the Bodhisattva's level. So that's not really that's we can say as a seed of Buddha compassion, but not really a true compassion. The true compassion is love, but limitless love, unconditional love. That's called true compassion. For instance, we have a good heart, big heart. We want to help others. So that's, we're not expecting anything. We just want to help. So that should be a compassion, right? But not really. So how? For instance, our love is somehow limited. If the person who is really appreciated, who understand that, then we'll continue to practice the compassion. If the person reacts a little bit differently, they're not happy, or they're having a trouble with you, they try to sue you or something, then we're going to stop. So Bodhisattva's love is never mind. That's why in the Buddhist teaching always said that we have to love the enemies. So that means like not just a slogan, we like love our enemy. No, that means like the other person you helping, they try to hurt you. Even that kind of condition, you have to have that's remain the loving kindness. So in this case, that's called love. So that's compassion. When we discuss compassion, that's another big subject. But today is mostly wisdom, so I don't want to go there. But anyway, why I say that, once you have compassion, that's we call bodhisattva. So bodhisattva has also different levels. Generally, have 5 levels. 5 levels called 5 paths. The path of accumulation, path of preparation or application, then path of seeing, path of meditation, path of no more to learn. So those 5 things. So the 5 paths, the first path, when you get to that's the first reach, that's the first level, then you already become Buddha, but Bodhisattva, but not really enlightened yet. So the enlightened one is path of seeing. You have to reach the 3rd level. Path of seeing, see what? See the here in nature, which is the emptiness. When you see the emptiness, then different. Before see the emptiness, we all in the samsara. Once you see the emptiness, then you're in the nirvana. So that's Avalokiteshvara. They emphasize two. The first one, your bodhisattva. Okay, you have a compassion, no question. Then the great being means like you're already in the up to third level, even more, but you at least you have this one. So that's why they emphasize two. Now we can go to our next level. Thereupon, through the Buddha's inspiration, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to Holy Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and said, any noble son who wished to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should train in what way? That's I mentioned before, the Heart Sutra, actually when you check the background, so Buddha was meditating there, and the Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra are gonna have a conversation. So here, because of the Buddha's inspiration, then Avalokita, the Venerable Shariputra start to ask a question. Then the question is, any noble son who wish to practice the profound perfection, how to start, how to train, is asking this question. Then here, noble son, noble. That's actually noble son. That's a noble. That's words in the English. They translated that one. Maybe you might have a different version. Maybe they translated different words. Maybe in Tibetan, Sanskrit. I don't know. I'm not read. I can't read the Sanskrit, but some of the words I know. But that's a Sanskrit I can't. So in Tibetan, called Rigjipu. Rig actually is a kind of clan, like one group or one family member, kind of like that. So I guess that has two meaning. One meaning is the ancient time in India. They respect their students. They call like my students, something like that. So that's why they call Rigjipu, like my son, something like that. Then they translate it to noble son. Okay, son means like not like right. Son is a disciple or student. Then another words is those people, the Buddhist the students or disciples, they all practice the compassion. So that's why they all in the Mahayana tradition. They all already in the path of Mahayana. So that's the same level. So that's why they said that's if somebody practiced the compassion or Mahayana, then should call the noble son. Somebody practice that, then how to practice the profound perfection. That's his question. When he asked, when this has been said, Holy Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, spoke to the Venerable Shariputra and said, Shariputra, any noble sons or noble daughters who wish to practice the perfection of wisdom should see this way. They should see insightfully, correctly, and repeatedly. That's even the five aggregates are empty of inherent nature. So when you see the when you try to analyze and understand everything, emptiness, then you should really see insightfully. Like you have to deep understanding. You have to have a deep understanding. Then the correctly, not wrong, right? So repeatedly, again and again. So that's all have different meanings. For instance, that's repeatedly, here said repeatedly. Repeatedly, that's also very important. Why that's very important? For instance, when we have when we practice the compassion, right? When we practice the compassion, our compassion, we can generate compassion sometime. So the compassion can't stay, not really stable. For instance, when you see a terrible car accident or something, then you immediately you will have some kind of love with responsibility, kind of, might say, oh, poor thing, what's happened? Well, how come like that? What can I do? Oh, like that, right? So that's the accident is horrible and the people died and something like that, right? So then also you might think, oh, I shouldn't do that in the future. That is very dangerous. Something like that's kind of thought you will have. However, then slowly, time to time, that's all kind of go away. Then later time, you will remember that. Then after few years, after many years, then that's all like, like a history you can't remember. Then you will still kind of doing that kind of a dangerous thing or like a risky thing. So before you think, we shouldn't do that, so I shouldn't do that, so that's so dangerous, like too risky and so on. So, but later on, that's all gone. So that's, I'm just making an example. So that's, I don't think that's just a good example. But anyway, when you practice emptiness or see the emptiness, also same like that, you almost during the meditation, you saw something, you understand something, but then later on, just go away. After your breakfast or after your work or something, that's all gone. Then you might say, oh, yesterday when I meditate, I had a very special feeling. Then I never reached that kind of level again. So, and repeatedly, that's a practice repeatedly. That means like when you have that, so you have to remain. You always practice, then getting used to it, right? So that's why the Avalokiteshvara, they give that advice. Now is very important thing. Now he's saying, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. So that's that's one sentence, like 4 lines. That's almost cover this whole Heart Sutra. So form is emptiness. When we talk about that's emptiness, I don't know in the English, you might know better, but in Tibetan or in different languages, if you say emptiness, you always have a little bit of confusion. Emptiness and empty is a little bit different. Empty, if a house, nobody lives there, so that's called empty house, right? Empty, nothing. Emptiness is different. Emptiness is somebody's there. Emptiness. That's a form is emptiness. So form is emptiness. I always making that example, but you know, I don't know. That's for me. That makes sense. Then, like a car, we all are using car. So you have your different names and different brand and everything. You know, the car you have. Your car, for instance, having a problem. Okay, so too old, or having some kind of mechanic, you know, damage or something, then you go to a body shop, try to fix your car. The person said, "Oh, that's really pretty, you know, heavy damaged. You have to take time to fix it." So maybe 1 week. After 1 week, you come and take a look. Maybe I can fix it or cannot. Maybe after that, if can't, then you can't drive. Maybe you have to leave. Then I will continue to work. So after 1 week, you go there and visit your car. In that workshop, there's no car. The car's not there. Then you might ask, "Where's my car? You took somewhere?" The person said, "No, your car's here." "Where?" "Oh yeah, I just you know, kind of like disassembled because your car is very damaged." So, "Oh yeah, true." Then I saw, you know, the 4 tiles there, and the shelves there, and the steering wheels, and all the you know, the engines somewhere else, but everything's there. But you know, my car's gone. Then in your mind, at this case, where's your car? The car's gone. After 10 days, when you go there, oh, car's back. He reassembled, right? So that's kind of thing. The form is emptiness, but you can't say nothing. You do have thing. So which part is really your car? This whole thing. Then the whole thing, if you you know, if you find a bad kind of mechanic, they can't fix it, they just piled up everything there, then is this called car? That's what we can't call car, because your car not orderly reassembled. That doesn't work. So that's what we don't call car. But your car, you have to put everything together and work. So that's what we call car. In this case, when really we check this car, so this car have to have those all components orderly put there, and one by one, because this one and that one works. Because of this gas, this car can run. Because of this electricity, this car, you know, the all computers are running, or whatever, something like that. So when you analyze this detail, that actually is cause and effect. All the causes works, then the result, the effect, all coming. So the whole thing together we call car. So the form exactly like that. So when you have this form, we just see this appearance, you know, like this whole thing. Oh, there's a car. When you really analyze, oh, this car is different. You have this car, Ford, but you put the engine, not the Ford, something else, maybe Chevy or something. So that's actually still working, right? So that's inside is different. Like we have a problem with our heart or something, then you do a surgery, go to a hospital, they, oh, that part is broken, you have to put something else. They maybe put something from dog, maybe from cow or something, you know. It's still working, right? That's not your originally your from you, so that's not yours, that's somebody else's, but still working. So that means like the cause and effect altogether working. That's called form. So here said that this form is emptiness. So the form, when you check this form, you couldn't find the real one. So for instance, another example, like a fruit, right? When you have fruits, especially some kind of fruits like you know, peach or something. So when you eat the peach, you definitely have a cord inside. You'll know that. So when you eat, and then, oh, okay, there's someone coming out, right? So like that's an example. Like a human being, I'll always say I. Okay, I have a name. You know, my nationality and so forth. Like that's a fruit. Where's my you know, the inside this cord? I couldn't find. Because I'm just like a car, you know, all the engine together, I'm working. If someday I die and everything's gone, so you can't do something like a stand up. Then I lie down, then they cremate, maybe they do a fire puja, then gone, then try to, you know, cremate and everything, then everything's gone. So you couldn't find the really I'm person coming up. So in this case, they call it emptiness. So form is emptiness, then emptiness also as a form. So emptiness, we say emptiness, emptiness. Then the form is emptiness, and then the form's gone. The car is, oh, car is emptiness. No, car is, form is emptiness. Emptiness is car. So the car is the emptiness, like, you know, the cause and effect made that's everything there. So when you find this way, then when you find that that's emptiness is not other than form. If you say, oh, emptiness is something very like really like special and really honorary, something like that. So that's form is like to nothing. No, that's emptiness is not other than form. It's same. So the emptiness, then again, we say I, right? We will discuss this later too. I, selfless. So myself, I'm here. I can't say I'm not here. So when you try to find the really I, you know, I, central I, where I located, I couldn't find. In my heart, in my lung, or where, I couldn't find. Again, then I said, if I have a heart problem, they can change it. They change, still I'm alive. So that means like, you know, that's really I, not located in a specific someplace. That whole thing is I. So if I say, oh, I'm I-less, when I meditate, then I understand like an emptiness, nothing there. So you can't say that because you have this body, you have this mind, brain is working, you have this ability, then you can practice, you can generate compassion. Without you, nobody can generate compassion. In this case, you're there. So like the car, if you say emptiness, car's gone, no, the car's there. Because the car have to work, they have to run, you have to drive this car. So, but when you really find this where's car, that's all together is a car. So body also same thing, you know, our you know, self also selfless, just like that. So that's for thing here said form is empty. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. So more profound meaning we have, but we'll stop now. Then the next line, okay. Likewise, sensation, discrimination, conditioning, and awareness are empty. So the 5 aggregates here. So the form I already mentioned. Why they call 5 aggregates? That's all. Not just one thing, individual, one thing. They hold together. Together they form everything. Form like a form. Also have 5 senses, like the eyes and the ears and everything. That's all functioning different way. So eye, you can see, you can't hear. Ear, you can hear, but you can't smell, for instance, like that. So that's why the form also inside have a different ability. So that's why they call the 5 aggregates, form aggregates, right? So sensation also like a feeling. So that's all almost 5 aggregates. Some have close relationship. Sensation is a feeling, sometimes feeling better and feeling good or bad. In Tibetan called chorwa. So chorwa dewa, chorwa dungal, like the happiness, feeling of happiness, feeling of suffering. That's very different, right? So, but still as a feeling. Then the discrimination like analyzing details, like and when you learn that's okay, this is Toyota car. That is different than this Ford car. This is a Ford car. Like that's that's like a detail you analyze to understand. Then the conditioning also called mental formation, like your mind more detailed, like this is this, that is that. You're making something up, right? So all of them from the awareness. So the consciousness. So the consciousness, for instance, the eye have eye consciousness, ear have ear consciousness, and that's just working, right? So talking about that's ear. So when I saw a little some kind of clip on the Facebook, that's very interesting. So some doctor, they made it that's as visible, you can see, otherwise the doctors can see, but we can't understand, right? So the ear, you can hear that's a sound. The sound come to your ear, you can hear. So they said the inside the ear has that's the when you play the piano, you have that's what you call the like a keyboard, like
the keys, yeah.
The keys, right? The keys, yeah. The keys like a very long one, right? So they just had this kind of a key thing. They rolled up and then in the air. So that's all moving. So when you have that's a sound, that's all. They have a different function. They hear. Sometimes people, you can see some sound, but you can't hear different sounds, right? So that's what's happened. That's some of the keys are broken. So when they working, they catch, sometimes like a very deep sound they can hear. Sometimes very noisy, like sharp sound they also can. That's all different functioning. Sometimes we have this kind of feeling, right? So when you hear music, okay, singing a song or something, beautiful. But they still have a background there, like a drama or something, they doing something, but you can't hear. So sometimes some people, they hear that's very deep sound, but they can't hear the sharp high sound, something like that. So that's they all have inside has very complication there. So anyway, that's a kind of thing. That's how they works the consciousness. I'm talking about the consciousness, awareness. The ear, that's all like a mechanic, right? So outside of those things there, but inside that's like a computer thing. That is the consciousness. That's if that's a doesn't work, then you can't hear. You can't hear nothing, right? So those 5 aggregates also, as mentioned before, form is emptiness. So that's a sensation is from emptiness. Emptiness is sensation. You can do that way. That's 5 aggregates are same. So and again, that's all not nothing, but that's a cause and effect. All have a cause and effect. So for instance, eye. Because you have an eye, your eye is working, your eyeballs are good and everything. You can see the object, then you will notice that it's red or blue or the sky or the raining or something. Then that's your eye consciousness is functioning. So same thing. So that's all like cause and effect. If you don't have that's a object, you can't see. If you don't have that's a consciousness, that's still can't see. For instance, the kids like that, right? So you send the kids to a house to find something. They always say, no, I couldn't find. They might call you, oh, I couldn't find. Where's that, mom? Like that. So that means like the kids didn't pay attention. You know, their consciousness not working together. So when ask him or her to get the ice cream, they will get this right away because they are functioning. They always thinking about that to say, oh, I know where's that. They can find it right away. If something else, they couldn't find it because that's, you know, they all not getting used to it. So their consciousness not really working together. So those are 5 aggregates. Then that's in the 5 paths we mentioned before. So that's all in practice, the path of accumulation and the path of preparation. So now move to a higher level. In this way, Shariputra, all things are emptiness. They are without defining characteristics. They are not born. They do not cease. They are not defiled. They're not undefiled. They have no increase. They have no decrease. So that's in the path of seeing. So when you analyze, then you really see the emptiness. So in the emptiness, you will see that that's a kind of 8 angles to analyze something. From your different 8 angles to analyze everything. So everything just like that. So that's a little bit complicated, but you know, that's also called 3 types of sensation for liberation. That's also called like 3 types of sensation of liberation, sensation for liberation, or they call the 3 doors of emancipation. So that's then that's a little bit complicated, but I try to explain this way. For instance, everything has three doors. Everything has three doors. The first door is emancipation through emptiness. This is one door. The second door is emancipation of signlessness, no sign signal. The third one is emancipation of wishlessness. So what I mean, for instance, let's say a seed. When you put the seed will grow. So that's a seed has those three doors. So the seed itself is emptiness. I mentioned before, like a form, right? The seed as a form. So the seed has, the cause and effect. Except that's cause and effect, that's a seed, nothing there. So that's why the seed itself is made by kind of built by emptiness. Then the second door is signlessness. Signlessness means so when you have a seed, then that seed will slowly grow. So that's a little white shoots coming out. Then slowly that's green shoots growing up, and then that is slowly changing, right? That's all like a sign. That's a sign. Also have to have a certain condition, right? Like weather and soil and water and so forth, right? So that's also a cause and effect. Except cause and effect, they just dry and die maybe. So so you have to have those kind of thing. Then the third one is we call emancipation through the wishlessness. So we kind of having a wish or aspirational for that seed. Then we say, oh, okay, that seed will later have a fruit. So that's just the wish. We don't know fruit. We do have a fruit or not. So then later on, because of the all condition and the time and the everything, weather and the temperature and everything, so the fruit perfectly have it. So even that one is emptiness, cause and effect. So in this way, when you use that knowledge, like the seed change to fruit, then middle you have that's progressive, like growing and its leaves and the flowers and so forth, all of them. Those are three doors you have to go through. So that's everything. When you check, just like that's way, the people also have that's the human being or the all material and everything. So for instance, we using a material, we also like that's right. So okay, that's just old pen. Let's say that's just an old pen. Even say that's just antique. So that means like 100 years ago. So what time they became old? Year by year, day by day, they just changed. So that's why everything is cause and effect. So that's why they have this kind of result. So in this case, they said that all emptiness in that's 8 angles to see. Now, our time. Okay, let me explain a little bit, and then we'll stop today. Then you have questions maybe. Then, therefore, Shariputra is Shariputra. In emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, no discrimination, no conditioning, and no awareness. Then I will continue read all of them. Okay. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There is no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no texture, no phenomena. And there's no I elements, and so on, to no mind elements, and so also up to no elements of mental awareness. So in the Heart Sutra, sometimes they didn't mention those topic. They just mentioning that's a real thing. That's a five. That's a six. No, no eyes and no nose. Those are they call six internal senses. So the six internal senses. No. That means like empty of inherent nature. You just add this inherent nature before we said, that's a very important keyword you have to remember. So you add this one, then that makes sense. So what I mean that why they say no, actually there exists, but why we say no? Because when you analyze this I, what is I? During the meditation, meditative equipoise, then you will see that nothing exists there beside the cause and effect. So then you see. Then afterwards, between the meditation sessions, that's all gone. Because that's we're not the bodhisattva, our meditation is not stabilized yet. So that's why you have this kind of condition. When you analyze, you almost kind of, you realize something, but later on, then all gone. So because that's, we have to continuously, they said, practice repeatedly, then you will understand. So that's a five internal senses. Then the no form, no sound. Those are six external senses. So external senses and the internal senses are eye. You can see the form, right? So that is the object. So that's also that's the six external senses are emptiness. Then the I elements. Elements also are same thing. Then the here said Marikpame, there is no ignorance and no elimination of ignorance, and so on up to no aging and death. So that's is the 12 links of dependent origination. But in Heart Sutra, they never mention those things, but that's the detail they have. But because they have to, they didn't mention the one by one. When I read that's Paramita Sutra, they just detail everything they mentioned. But in Heart Sutra, they just like a shortcut. So they mentioned there is no ignorance up to no aging and death, right? The 12 links, they just didn't mention everything. So actually here, something a little bit complicated, but I try to explain it. I don't know if that works or not. 12 link, so 12 things, right? So sometime, not this year, maybe next year, I will show you a slideshow. I made the 12 links, that's a slideshow. So 12 link, the 12 link of dependent origination from Sutra, and I add some kind of modern life in it. So also have that's a gestation, the baby was born and which station, so that's all combined together. I made a slideshow, but maybe next year we will discuss that when we have that opportunity. So the 12 link I said, actually 12 link of dependent origination, when you practice, you have one set 12 link of dependent origination, like a clockwise. from the ignorance, then to karmic formation, then to consciousness, then to name and form, 6 perfections, and so forth, like that's 12 links. That's clockwise. When you practice, you should practice the counterclockwise as well. So for instance, the end is the aging and death, right? Aging and death, that's just the end. That's 12 link of dependent origination. Actually, they describe the the living beings, all sentient beings, like a whole lifespan. So when you ask, what's one person's lifespan, we might say, oh, birth and death. So actually, birth and death is the 2 of the sections. We still have 10 more on that. So altogether, the very beginning, they start the ignorance. For instance, what is ignorance? Let's say I'm doing something here. Okay, I'm doing something a little bit crazy like that. So that's actually is ignorantly I create something. Then that's because of that, that's already have that's records, which is the karmic formation. They already have it. Or I did something good, maybe by accidentally or by purposely. I did something good. Oh, okay. Too hot. I just turn on the air conditioner, for instance. Oh, okay. That's just like I did something good, right? For instance, okay. That's a karmic formation. Then later, that will bring me happiness. If I did something bad, then later, well, that's a karma, bring me something suffer. Then when you check, oh, maybe long time ago you did something bad, so that's why you have this headache, for instance, like that, right? So that's all 12 links. Then the 12 links going backwards. So from the death, why you have a death? We have to analyze this. Why have a death? Oh, because we have aging. That's why I have a death. Oh, why we have aging? Well, because you have a birth. So on, so then until the ignorance. So when you practice, you should go forward and backwards, counterclockwise and clockwise. Okay. So same thing. That's also have 2 sides, 2 sets. One is the 12 links of dependent origination in lifespan, our lifetime. So that's all with suffering. When you have that's ignorance and the karmic and so forth until the birth and death, all with suffering. So when you practice, when you liberate it in the nirvana, so all of them like purified. So when you have purified those 12 links, so that's also have a cause and effect. Also clockwise and counterclockwise. So then here, they mentioned all of them, but they just made them shorten. They said that there is no ignorance, so that is the clockwise, right? So elimination of ignorance, which is the counterclockwise. They said that the other way around. So and so on up to no aging and the death. No, that's no means like the counterclockwise. Actually, it's the aging and death, right? So when you really find out that there's no aging and death, so those are 48 things. 12 times 4, 48. Forward and backward in the samsara level or in the nirvana level, all of them as emptiness. Okay, now next slide. Likewise, there is no suffering, origin, sensation, cessation, or path. So that's 4 noble truths, but they didn't mention 4 noble truths, but the suffering and the causes of suffering and cessation and the path. And there is no wisdom, no attainment, and even no non-attainment. So that's when you have that's a Four Noble Truths, like before you have that's suffering. Suffering, what we should do. Suffering, we should understand. What is suffering? We have to learn. So then suffering, oh, where this come from? Oh, because I did something bad, then have that's a suffering. That's causes of suffering. So that's we should stop. Causes of suffering, we should abandon. Then cessation of suffering, no suffering, that's case is a happiness, right? So that's we should remain or keep. Then the path is the the way to get get rid of the suffering, way to find this happiness, right? So that's what we should practice. So the Four Noble Truths, when you practice, then they will have wisdom. So even this wisdom, no wisdom means like no emptiness. That means like emptiness of inherent nature of wisdom. So the wisdom self is a cause and effect. Otherwise, there's no wisdom automatically coming. So that's attainment. So when you get the enlightenment or no enlightenment, all of them as cause and effect. Now we'll stop here. I don't know. That's a little bit makes sense to you or not. For me, very hard. So anyway, shall we? Okay, stop here. And if you have questions, maybe I ask you a few questions. How about that?
Yeah. Lamala, I put you on mute because you were moving around a bit. So you gotta poke yourself and unmute yourself again.
Okay.
Oh.
You mean myself?
No. I put Lama Jimpa on mute because he was
okay.
moving. So
yeah,
we had some issues with that earlier. Maybe does anyone have questions if Lama can't figure out the mute again? If someone has a question, maybe they can unmute and ask a question then.
Okay.
No, I don't see any questions yet.
I have a question.
Yes.
The 12 links.
Yes.
They're moving on a wheel back and forth. Is that that's the impression I got from what you were saying.
Kathleen?
The 12 links, are they moving back and forth? You were talking about forward and backwards with the 12 links. Did I misunderstand you or?
Okay, let me try to explain this one again. Maybe I said that's not clear. So moving back and forward means like when you practice, when you analyze, you have to go to clockwise. Okay, so why I have this problem, then I will say, oh, because I have this ignorance, I did something wrong, so I have this karmic formation, karma. Because of this karma, then I have consciousness. The consciousness have a name and form. Then later on, born and aging and death, and everything happened, right? So we think this way. So then the counterclockwise. So we should think, okay, why I'm dying? Why I'm dying? Then why I should stay forever? Why I'm dying? Oh, I'm permanent. Then I'm aging. So that's why I'm dying. Oh, aging. Why I'm aging? Because I'm, born. I was born. So that's why I'm aging. Then until to the ignorance. So the idea is try to find this ignorance. Ignorance is the opposite of wisdom. So we need the wisdom. So once we have ignorance, we don't have wisdom. When we have to have a wisdom. We have to get rid of the ignorance. So when you try to get rid of the ignorance, then you have to analyze, going backwards and forwards to analyze, then totally understand, then you can get rid of. So that is the idea, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And it was about the 3 doors.
Yeah.
And is that specifically 3 doors just for emancipation? You gave the example of a seed, but that just for emancipation, each thing, whatever's going to be emancipated, would be through emptiness and then signlessness and then wishlessness.
Right.
And like it's in that order, and it's only things that are going to be liberated. Is that correct?
Yeah. When you go to liberate, you have to find those details. Then when we analyze, then everything, I just made the example for the seed, but everything, car or human being or everything has those 3 levels. The human being also have those levels. The first thing, the body. The body is a form, like the form is emptiness, we mentioned before. So then the body also changing from the childhood to the, the matured person or elder or whatever. That's all have that's signals. Signlessness, that is the kind of liberation from that one. Then then also we have a wish, right? We in the future we might become like that. So that's one coming, and also we understand that. Then we will so the we can practice the wishlessness, like emptiness. So the goal is that to understand that that's a true the whole thing. If we say ourself is selflessness. Selflessness, how to understand the selflessness, then you have to make those 3 levels, like the 3 levels, and through the 3 levels, the emancipation, then you can liberate it. Otherwise, that's each level kind of tied there. So that's why you can't liberate it.
Okay, so you're saying that's a method, a way that we can evaluate.
Yes. Yeah.
Selflessness is through these 3 doors that you talk about.
Right.
Okay,
right.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Rinpoche, I have a question, and thank you so much for this talk. Really, really helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. With the 3 doors with signlessness,
yeah,
I'm struggling a little bit. You gave the example of the growth of a seed and the conditions. So can you talk a little bit more about how we would practice with that methodology in the emancipation? Cause and effect, or?
That's also, I think that's machiwa mangapa, chanyi mach, dongbani chanyi machi mango, jumamepa, jumatong chawamepa. Actually, we before mentioned those 8 things, right? 8 things like emptiness. This is the way. In this way, Shariputra, all things are emptiness. They are without defining characteristics. Second, they are no not born. That's not cease. They're not defiled. So so 5 of them, I guess. I'm a little bit confused, but anyway, so those are kind of belongs to, that's the first door. The second one actually, I guess, started that's having no increase and decrease there. So increase and decrease means so that is the sign, actually, signlessness. So signlessness, that's we always something like getting better or getting worse. Of course, in our stage, we have to practice that anyway. But otherwise, oh, now I practice and getting more and more like that. In bodhisattvas, that's level. Because of that's emptiness, you understand that's emptiness. So you are increased from the first level to the 10th, the path you can get there. But that's still kind of, mental process, but not really a decrease or increase. So that's there's no sign, I guess. So that's why maybe I'm not sure how to explain this one, but kind of that's all cause and effect. That's a cause and effect. You can't stack on it. Like you can't say, okay, I'm wishing something better. So if you think that's way, then your kind of practice not really proved yet or something. So this makes a little bit of sense.
That makes a tremendous amount of sense. Absolutely. So I'm trying to be in the moment, not trying to expect something different to come in the future.
I think so. I think something like that. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rinpoche?
Yes.
Omahung. What keeps coming to mind for me, and maybe you can talk about this in terms of the Heart Sutra, is the fluidity of life, arising and dissolving of phenomena, and how we might look at that to kind of explain emptiness. Is the phenomena, once it's arisen because of cause and effect, is that emptiness as well?
Yes, emptiness. Emptiness is the we also call the truthness, and also like two truths, conventional truths and the ultimate truth. So the ultimate truth is the emptiness. Nothing exists there but the cause and effect. The cause and effect as conventional truths. That's also truly exists there. Both of them. It's not one is real, one is not real. Something like that. So okay, for instance. So when we practice, what's the matter? The matter is, I think when we practice in our mind, once you have that's ignorance, some sort, the wisdom, the opposite of wisdom is the ignorance. Once you have ignorance, then that's bother your practice. That's as an obstacle for your practice. When you practice, so in our mind, the 12 link of dependent origination also have this thing. They have elimination, like element, illustrated too. So that's a picture, like a mind inside our mind. Our mind controlled by those 3 animals. So 3 animals, just an example, like pigs and the snake and the rooster. So that's attachment, anger, and ignorance. 3 of them, they, like controlled our mind. So once you don't have that kind of selflessness, then you will control one of them. So when you control one of them, you always think, okay, so this is mine. I did something good or whatever. So, or you have a little bit upset. Oh, that's person I doing something good, but that person always criticizes me or whatever, something like that. So in this way, our mind, because of that ignorance, so I can't really practice more. We can't, develop the wisdom. Why? Because of that ignorance bothers. So when you try to get rid of ignorance, you can't say, okay, I don't have ignorance start today. Okay, I'm just a practice or something. That you can't do. So you have to use this all idea. That's the 3 doors I just mentioned. That's also something like that. So we're thinking something increase, there's nothing increase. Something decrease, no, nothing decrease. Something like contaminated, no. Something like pure, no. So that's the original one is a cause and effect. So once you have that kind of different thought, you might make this mind as more contaminated or something. So that's why you have to try to use different angle to purify them. So I guess that is the idea. So I don't know that's clear or not. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Lama, do you have your sound working yet?
Yeah.
No?
How's that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Rinpoche, thank you so much for making the lions roar on the last day of Sagadawa.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
students. You're welcome.
That's really wonderful. We have that opportunity to use that social media. We having a social distance, but we still have that's a social media to connect.
That's right.
So that's good.
So I know I speak for all of us that it's the experience of being on Vulture Peak right now with you, Rinpoche. So
that's great. That's
many
great.
blessings.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to your next teaching.
Thank you. You've been there, right?
Yes.
That's a really special, yeah.
Really special place. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Omahun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So closing prayers now?
Yeah, let's do closing prayers.
Go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead and do it, James?
Give me just a second here. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish. May the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losong, magical display of the deep awareness of all victorious ones. Merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion. Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom. Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the Snowy Land sages. Losang Drakpa, I make request at your holy feet. And the verses that save Sakya from sickness, a prayer for pacifying the fear of disease. May all the diseases that disturb the minds of sentient beings and which result from karma and temporary conditions, such as the harms of spirits, illness, and the elements, never occur throughout the realms of this world. May whatever sufferings arise due to life-threatening diseases, which like a butcher leading an animal to the slaughter, separate the body from the mind in a mere instant, never occur throughout the realms of this world. May all embodied beings remain unharmed by acute, chronic, and infectious diseases, the mere names of which can inspire the same terror as would be felt in the jaws of Yama, Lord of Death. May the 80,000 classes of harmful obstructors, the 360 evil spirits that harm without warning, the 424 types of disease, and so forth, never cause harm to any embodied being. May whatever sufferings arise due to disturbances in the four elements, depriving the body and mind of every pleasure, be totally pacified, and may the body and mind have radiance and power, and be endowed with long life, good health, and well-being. By the compassion of the gurus and the three jewels, the power of the dakinis, dharma protectors and guardians, and by the strength of the infallibility of karma and its results, may these many dedications and prayers be fulfilled as soon as they are made. That's it.
Great. Thanks for coming. Next week it will be sort of the same. Rinpoche will be joining us at about noon. We will have regular prayers and Dharma talk starting at 11. So hopefully you guys can join us again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Catch you later.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.